Hello, it's Tuesday, October 25th, and welcome to My Left Ear, video 123. So, I'm Carrie Freeman. I'm the writer, producer, director of My Left Ear. This is a liberal YouTube channel, and I add some other things, some uplifting things. I do psychic commentary and the runes. So that's the little introduction because I know there are some new people here. So when I'm not doing this, I do like to let people know I do private sessions where I offer psychic coaching, which I have a special technique, and I do therapeutic hypnosis. And if you want to contact me about doing the psychic work or the therapeutic hypnosis, which helps people change, I call myself a change agent because I help people change and acquire what they need and what they want. All information on reaching me is in the description section, and I will post it in the community section also. I have a couple of books I've written. I have a Patreon channel, so I invite all of you to look into that. And this is for entertainment purposes only. If you like, please subscribe, and please, bing, hit like. Thank you. So I'm starting today. I was contacted by one of my long-term subscribers with a great idea. And it is to pull together a meditation and a prayer for democracy. And I've decided I'm gonna do this video on November 1st, and it's just gonna be devoted to unifying us and our energies to create the outcome that we need, which is a free democracy. So I'll tell you more about that. I haven't chosen a time, but the video will be up to look at every day up until the midterms, and it will be short. All right, so that's the announcement. Now, the first thing I want to share with you, because the midterms are 2 weeks away and it's tense, I want to give you a little background. I did a little research that I think is really interesting. This goes back to 2018, all right? So let me give you a little history. The Democratic Party expanded its margin over the Republican Party to 9 points in votes cast for the U.S. House of Representatives in 2018, and it was a gain of 7% points. Now, this increased support enough for the Democratic Party to gain the majority in the House with a net pickup of 41 seats. All right, now we cut to 2022. The percentage of voters registered with the Democratic Party has increased from 44.58% to 46.75%. And then the percentage of voters registered with the Republican Party decreased from 25.27% to 23.92%. That is encouraging for us. Plus, the Democratic Party is the larger party. Now, you know, the next issue that comes up is, well, who's going to show up to vote, right? So I found some more interesting stuff, and I do have runes today, by the way, so I'm just starting off with this. There is a gentleman named Kyle Kondik, and he's the managing editor of a political paper at the University of Virginia Center for Politics, all right? Now, he says a few things. Just stay with me here. He says Republicans could still walk away from the November election with control of Congress. Well, of course, we all knew that. All right, but here he goes on. I just think this is interesting stuff. He says, usually what the public will sort of negatively react to and have a referendum on in the midterms is something that the president's party has done that they don't like. And if you look back on history, you'll see that that's true. In this instance, like now, it was an unpopular decision rendered by the Supreme Court, not the president. And the Supreme Court, that's controlled by the party that doesn't control the presidency and Congress, okay? Now, while it may have been an uphill battle for Democrats to maintain control of Congress before the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs versus Jackson, which is Roe v. Wade, in regard to women's health, it will depend on who turns out to decide what party holds the power. We know that. Now, women have registered in vast numbers, okay? He says, I think Roe v. Wade / Dobbs boosted Democratic enthusiasm about voting. Sometimes anger is a great motivator, and this is true. He continued, there are a lot of independent voters who may show up to vote who may not approve of Joe Biden, but also may not like the Republican position on certain things. This is all to our benefit, my friends. All right, so I wanted to give you something positive. I also had a conversation with a friend of mine who's deeply psychic. She's not on YouTube. It's not how she rolls. But I will consult with her, and we had a conversation earlier. She thinks the Dems are gonna win the House and the Senate, and actually I do too. And I'm gonna stop right here and say something. I think it wouldn't be a terrible thing to watch less news and less of the pundits, MSNBC, because there's a sort of a slant that's not great when you watch these. You know, all these, even MSNBC, they need to make money and they need to keep people engaged. So they're going to throw out fear. And I certainly feel it. And so I've begun to reduce my watching through the midterms. I'm not saying I have to watch because I'm making these outlines for us and you, but I am reducing it when it feels icky, and some of it feels icky. Be careful of the polls. We don't even know who is being polled, okay? I've never been asked, and I don't know anybody that's ever been asked. So I'm just gonna stop there. Now, you probably know this, but in case you don't, found at Mara Fargo, I always say Mara Fargo, documents containing highly sensitive and classified intelligence on China and Iran were found. This is gigantic, it's horrendous, it's dangerous, and it is big, fat news. So here's the first rune reading. I asked, will Trump be charged with treason? Now, you know, that's a big word, right? But I'm not alone. Glenn Kirshner has been talking about it also. And he is leaning to the side of treason. So this is not coming out of nowhere. All right, the first rune I got, very interesting, is the blank rune, which is unknowable. That's the rune. It's unknowable, and it's called blank. It is connected to the divine, but it says in Ralph Blum's book, blank is the beginning and blank is the end. So I want to say it's the beginning of charges and it's the end of his running feral. Trump running feral, because he's running feral. And he's saying unbelievable things. At his last rally this past week, he talked about throwing journalists into jail, letting them get raped until they reveal who their sources are. And he said that in front of a huge crowd. They cheered, they laughed. It's very upsetting. So, blank is the beginning, blank is the end, E-N-D. The appearance of blank can portend a death, okay? And it doesn't have to be a physical death. It could be, but a death of a way of being, a death of extremism, a death of terrorizing us. And so it is about relinquishing control. That's the big challenge. And we know that Donald Trump cannot relinquish control, but I believe he's going to be forced to do that. This blank room brings up the fear. Will I fail? And I think that's part of his issue right now. So then the second rune I got is the rune of strength, which sounds very positive to you, I imagine. But it is the rune of terminations and new beginnings, and it sort of marries with the blank rune about endings and beginnings. It totally marries with blank. And it says, the life that you have been living has outgrown its form, and that form must die. That's pretty literal, right? So this is a rune of passage. The strength is a rune of passage. And it may involve a descent into darkness, and certainly being charged with treason after your president is a descent into darkness. There may be a loss of something to which you have an intense emotional bond, but this bond is being severed. And the last rune with this question about treason is signals in the reversed position. And it cautions, you may be concerned over what appears to be failed communication, lack of clarity, or awareness. You may feel inhibited about accepting what is offered. Now that may be he's offered some kind of a deal. And a sense of futility and wasted motion may overwhelm him. As a result, especially with these documents from China and Iran, I think there's a real strong chance that treason will come into the mix for Donald Trump. All right, and the runes are the reason I'm leaning in that direction. We will see, right? Now, this is a little whimsical, but it just kept coming up, so I did it, and I got an interesting response for the runes. Will there be midterm surprises? That was just sort of a non-direct way of approaching the midterms. Will there be surprises? So I got the defense rune, which is about avertive powers. It says, as we are tested, we fund the power to avert blockages and defeat. If there appears to be an obstacle in your path, which is, the GOP, the propaganda, the gerrymandering, and the cheating, consider that even a delay may prove beneficial. And there might be objections, and that's part of the delay, where there's lawsuits lobbied and, you cheated and all this kind of stuff. Patience is the counsel for us. The rune speaks to the difficulties that arise at the beginning of new life. And when the Democrats maintain the House and maybe even add a few seats and the Senate, it's going to be difficult. And it's going to be questioned. They're letting us know this already. It won't be a normal, we accept it, we're very sad, we're angry. It's going to be, as they say in, there's a Jewish slang, mishigas. Mishigas is kind of like the disruption, okay? Now, it does say, I'm staying on the same one, through inconvenience and discomfort, growth is promoted. Positive. Now, the second rune I got on this question about surprises, midterms, is Berkana, the rune of growth. And Berkana represents a form of fertility that fosters growth, both literally and symbolically. I don't think I need these right now. This rune leads to blossoming and ripening. Dispense resistance and clean out any dark corners. If there is a win, modesty and patience are called for here. But through steadfastness, and right attitude, a blossoming can occur. Positive. And then we have fertility, the rune of fertility, new beginnings. Now, new beginnings, adding seats to the House and the Senate, new beginnings. So this rune is about the intuitive part of our nature with an urge towards harmonizing. And it's the completion of beginnings. I love that phrase, completion of beginnings. And it's what this rune requires. So it's a completion of being on the fringe in the House and the Senate, and being in a stronger position, because this rune marks a time of joyful deliverance. It says you now have the strength to achieve completion, and we are emerging from a closed chrysalis state. Because when we add those seats, which the polls don't speak of, by the way, but I do, we grow, we break out. That's when we codify Roe v. Wade. That's when we get the voting rights done. That's when we get really positive bills enforced. So I really cannot stand Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's getting scarier, okay? Because I sometimes remote view, which means I go to what people are saying and thinking at a long distance. And she is feeling, fantasizing, and imagining that she's going to be the next vice president standing next to Donald Trump. And as I watch her from my own intuitive prism and my left ear, she's acting very elated, excited. She looks like a woman in love. She's glowing. And no, I'm not suggesting she's in love. In fact, she's getting a divorce. Her husband's divorcing her. But she's kind of in love with Donald Trump because she sees a pony ride there. All right. So I asked, will Marjorie Taylor Greene be indicted for sedition or seditious conspiracy? Right? Big question. So I got partnership. And partnership often is a really positive rune. But this partnership, as it says, in some form is at hand. And my left ear feels that the partnership they're talking about is the partnership of conspiracy, that she's a part of it. That's all I wrote for the first rune, because that's all I needed to establish. So the next rune, separation, is reversed. And it says, do not be bound by old conditioning and old authority. And that's her GOP, and that's her Trump, and that's her posse. It tells her you may be called upon to undertake a radical departure from old ways, because she's out of control. Honesty is required. She will not be honest. She's not capable of it. She's very much like Donald Trump. And it says adaptability is a quality to cultivate. And she cannot do that either. Then I got the blank rune, and it's just so much fun. I'm going to repeat it again. Blank is the end of her political career, and blank is the beginning. Blank is the beginning of her paying for being a seditionist. And we don't know how far it went. There's quite a few people on Twitter, plus a body language expert, Dr. Jack Brown, who actually thinks that she's the pipe bomber. And there are people, quite a few, who think that the FBI already knows, Lynn Cheney knows, and a few others, and that's going to come later, all right? This is what I'm hearing. I'm not doing runes on it right now. So it's the end of her career and the beginning of her penance of some kind. And the rune says, can portend a death. And a death in any part of her life that she is living now. And this says, even if she wins the midterms, okay? I think she's gonna have a day of reckoning, and so do the runes. They keep giving advice, the runes, but she won't take it. Relinquishing control is the big challenge here, and it does bring up fears. Will I fail? And even if she wins the midterms, she will fail. But I agree with you, I agree with me, that she's scary. She's batshit, just like Carrie Lake in Arizona and a few other. I think the GOP women go to school to learn how to be batshit, all right? Now, my last, Lawrence O'Donnell went a little nutty 2 nights ago, in a good way. I love Lawrence O'Donnell. I think he's so smart and articulate, because Clarence Thomas reviewed Lindsey Graham's objection to his subpoena in Georgia from Fani Willis. And Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court, froze it temporarily. So it's not permanent, but he froze it. He agreed with Lindsey Graham. Even I didn't think that would happen. But Lawrence O'Donnell went nuts because, and then it's come out that what Clarence Thomas did is actually illegal. He's not supposed to be ruling on these things because his wife is so involved, because, and it says, you recuse if your spouse is connected to the issue that you're judging. And I don't know that he's going to get called on that. I don't think Justice Roberts is up to it. And I think because people are writing, he needs to recuse, he needs to resign. He's not going to. He's very privileged and he's very arrogant, and he does what he wants to do, and so does his wife. However, a new strong Congress can impeach him. I'm just leaving that with you. And I'm going to do something I did last week with just like some sound bites on this happened, this happened, this happened, and this happened, and then I'll go into good evidence. So here we start the sound bites. Bob Woodward of Watergate fame, he had made hours of audio tapes as he interviewed Trump for his last book, and he felt that the audio tapes were very important for people to hear. And in the tapes, Trump admits to admitting that he has documents and knowing that he's not supposed to. It's his voice, and he knew. So no longer can he say they were planted, I didn't know. It's on the audio tapes, and that's why Bob Woodward did that. And also because I don't know if he thinks we're stupid, but Bob Woodward came out and claimed that Donald Trump is in very serious danger. And I wrote to somebody, really? I didn't know that. It's kind of odd. So Trump Organization is now on trial in New York over a 15-year tax cheating scheme. And CFO Alan Weisselberg is testifying, and it's a plea deal that if he testifies without perjury, he will get a limited sentence, a reduced sentence. A lot of money he has to pay, maybe a couple of $1 million. But supposedly he's only going to be charged with 5 months in jail, and that could be reduced even more. But that's not the end. The belief is the family business will crumble, and the Trump Organization will not exist, and the family members will not be able to do business in New York anymore. So that's the Trump org, but it's different than Trump himself being on trial. So now we're going to see Alan Weisselberg to be the star witness. Yeah, I said that already. He's the star witness in the company's tax fraud trial. And And then he's going to testify against Trump when that trial comes up that Tish James is bringing directly to Trump and his kids next year. And Alan Weisselberg would. So there ends their very long relationship. Kanye West, with his anti-Semitism, outrageous anti-Semitism, has been dropped by Adidas, by his agency, CAA, Creative Artists Agency, the biggest agency on the planet, and by Anna Wintour of Vogue magazine. So Kanye deservedly is losing all his benefits, endorsements, and business deals. I didn't throw any runes. He's not important to me. I am a Jew. And on the 405 freeway last week, they had hung those big giant signs on an overpass with Kanye's name, anti-Semitism, against Jews. And it's the ugliest thing. He is mentally ill. And my belief is that he goes off his meds and he gets in trouble like this. But the meds do not create anti-Semitism, okay? They create a big mouth and lots of trouble. Now, Josh Shapiro, who is running for governor in Pennsylvania, is 15 points ahead of Mastriano, who is an extremist and who was with the Oath Keepers on January 6th. He shouldn't even be able to run for governor, but he's not going to win. It's going to be Josh Shapiro. Thank goodness. And Josh Shapiro will be a great governor. So happy about that. And then I don't know if you heard this, but I guess the word of the day is batshit. This is so awful. Under Greg Abbott, current governor of Texas, Texas is issuing DNA kits for parents in case there's another shooting. I mean, really? But no gun legislation. I don't know, but Beto O'Rourke must win Texas. It's a nightmare. All right, now we get to good evidence. And for the new people, good evidence is based on a book I wrote called Good Evidence and Positive Noticing. And that is available on Amazon in digital form. I am producing a paperback version of this, which will probably be available in a month or two. Don't know if I'm going to get it out for Christmas, but definitely in a month or two. Paperback. So good evidence, just briefly, is anything that occurs that lights you up. So if helping an elderly person across the street gives you pleasure, that's good evidence because you helped somebody. If you win the lotto, that's good evidence. If you're short a quarter and someone in Starbucks gives you a quarter, that's good evidence. You might take a look at the book, but the paperback is coming out. Anyway, that's what I mean when I call it good evidence, because you don't envision it, you don't imagine it, you don't meditate on it. It's just something that if it happens naturally in real life, you just got yourself some good evidence. So last week when I did, or 3 or 4 days ago, when I did my good evidence, I talked about my sister-in-law staying with me and buying me a really cool dress, and you saw the dress. But I wasn't satisfied with that, and I walked away and I went, no, that's the good evidence from that week with my sister-in-law, and it started from the day I picked her up at LAX. She came in early from Chicago, O'Hare Airport, which is unheard of. So she arrived early. There was like no traffic for me driving to LAX, which is normally about 45 minutes. It was just effortless. I pulled up, she was there, she jumped in my car, and then we drove off. And she said, are you hungry? And I said, yeah. And I said, we're near one of my favorite restaurants. We went there. We had a fantastic lunch, La Scala, presto. And the whole trip went like that, where everywhere we went, it flowed and people were helpful and traffic was good and the timing was good. And so that was the good evidence. Yes, the dress was wonderful and she bought me a necklace and that was wonderful. But this is the energy of the trip where it just went smoothly. So I wanted to mention that. I also learned something from listening to a podcast that really relates to good evidence. And that is, and experts were talking, that like if you meet somebody, in the grocery store, you know how I do all the time, small talk with a stranger is a mood elevator for the stranger and you. So these little exchanges that people have here and there, they're strangers, in line, whatever, it's a mood elevator. So I didn't even really get that, but it so goes along with good evidence and raising vibration. So I want you to know that anytime, and I know people, some people are very, very shy. I'm not overbearing, but I'm not shy. I mean, I'm just really comfortable talking to people. So evidently I'm getting my mood elevated every day I walk out the door. All right, there you go. And here's this one quote. It just grabbed me. It has nothing to do with politics, but it has to do with children and art and creativity. Here's the quote. All children are artists. The problem is how to remain an artist once you've grown up. All children are artists. The problem is how to remain artists once you've grown up. And that quote is by Pablo Picasso, who knew a little bit about art, right? All right, that's it for today. And hope you had fun. I'll be back with Patreon. When I do the next Patreon, I'm gonna do the runes readings first. I got a little, I don't know, I don't even want to call it a complaint, but someone that was a little bit unhappy that I was doing the celebrity stories first. And I think I did that two weeks in a row. So I said, thank you for letting me know. And so the next one, I'm going to do runes first and then celebrity stories after that. So for now, make peace, make good memories, and go make small talk. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.